twofer. Trump has made Hillary Clinton electable and Barack Obama a statesman. Next, you'll have Bill Clinton walking on an ocean of semen. I mean, it's a thing that one of the many reasons to loathe Donald Trump, but I think the one that may head the list is that he has made Barack Obama consistently right about something. And he's right. Every time that Barack Obama says that Donald Trump is unfit for office, he's absolutely right. And it doesn't matter that Obama is unfit for office as well. It's hypocritical in the extreme for Barack Obama, of all people, to say such a thing, but he's right. He's not wrong. Barack Obama says Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee, is unfit to serve as president. And Barack Obama is correct. It may be unusual for a sitting president to take such a strong public position on the race to replace him, but it's not exactly without precedent. Harry Truman had been out of office for only one administration when he opined before the 1960 election, "If you vote for Dick Nixon, you ought to go to hell." He also called him a no-good lying bastard and a no-good son of a bitch. Those remarks mostly were not intended for public consumption, Kevin Williamson writes at nationalreview.com today, though Truman wasn't too careful about it. Dwight Eisenhower's remarks on the Republican candidate in 1960, who was his own vice president, remember, were private and less colorful, but no less damning. "We nominated the wrong man, and God damn it, he looks like a loser to me." But Ike had been famously dismissive of Nixon in public, too, most notoriously when asked how the vice president had contributed to his administration, answering, "If you give me a few weeks, I may be able to think of something." In the 1988 election, sitting President Ronald Reagan was asked for his opinion on Michael Dukakis, who was being pressured to release the 1988 Democrat presidential nominee, who was being pressured to release certain medical records. Reagan answered, "I'm not going to pick on an invalid." President George W. Bush, his father's son, clearly believed that getting into the 2008 muck on behalf of Senator John McCain was infra dig for a sitting president. He was also canny enough to realize that it probably would have done more harm than good. But Eisenhower, Reagan, and Bush for the Republican Party to have gone from those men to Donald Trump is evidence that the unfitness extends well beyond the feckless and illiterate person of the candidate himself. The candidate has been on a roll, as he always is. He was criticized by the parents of a Muslim soldier killed in Iraq and responded that they were really upset because he plans to keep Islamic terrorists out of the country. "I think that's what bothered Mr. Khan," Trump insisted. These are the parents of a fallen American soldier, and Trump accuses them of being enablers of Islamic terrorism based on the fact that they have criticized him. Trump later here we go again. Trump later showed off a Purple Heart medal someone gave him. Actually, it was a copy. It wasn't an actual Purple Heart. Saying that he'd always wanted to get the Purple Heart and that this method was much easier than, say, earning one in combat, said the draft dodger. Trump, a draft dodger whose disabling bone spurs seemed to have disappeared miraculously, once bragged that evading sexually transmitted diseases over the course of what he promises has been a somewhat exotic sex life, was his own personal Vietnam, so perhaps he believes he earned that Purple Heart at the Battle of Poontang, or as George Carlin used to pronounce it, Poontang. Somewhere in the midst of all that, he assured us that he had good reason to believe the Russians would never invade Ukraine, which they actually did in 2014. You know, when they annexed Crimea. Trump apologists on the alt-right will no doubt insist that Obama's dismissal of Trump is unseemly, and perhaps it is. Hugh Hewitt responded with criticism of Barack Obama's lead from behind strategy, his failure in Syria, etc., as though those were relevant to the question. Of course, Barack Obama has been a terrible president. Been saying that for the past 8 bleeping years. He could be 10 times worse, 1,000 times worse. Adolf Hitler, or the screenwriting team behind the Star Wars prequels, and it would not change anything. This is a classical example of why the ad hominem fallacy is a fallacy. Yes, Obama is a preening mediocrity and a genuine dullard in the matter of international relations and pretty much everything else, but is what he said about Trump true? Of course it's true. Dennis Prager, who in January, on the pages of National Review, insisted that Trump is unfit to be president, and that arguments about Supreme Court appointments were mostly baloney because there is no reason to have confidence that Trump would nominate conservatives to the Supreme Court, is lecturing just yesterday on nationalreview.com, lecturing Trump critics that we must support Trump in order to prevent a left-wing Supreme Court. Prager should read Prager, methinks. Just like Douglas v. Gibbs should read Douglas v. Gibbs, or better yet, read me, my writings at his website. Prager, who sells books about anti-Semitism, is among those getting into bed with every Jew-hating weirdo not named Al Sharpton to elect a candidate who opposes conservative ideas at nearly every turn, and who is, even Obama gets one right every now and then, morally and intellectually unfit for the office, and he is doing so on the strength of a Supreme Court argument that Prager himself thought was bullshit just a few months ago. I mean, Donald Trump could very well nominate Judge Judy to the Supreme Court. I mean, if your argument is, regardless, I prefer him to Hillary Rodham Clinton, well, okie dokie. But let's be honest about what exactly it is you prefer to Mrs. Clinton. What manner of man you would see entrusted with the, or madman, you would see entrusted with the most powerful political the formerly most powerful political portfolio on earth. Someone as bad and as awful and as dangerous and tyrannical as she is. If you're going to do that, then you should have the intellectual honesty and the moral courage to be straight and plain in public about what it is you are doing. And if Trumplicans are bereft of anything, it is intellectual honesty and moral courage.